Hi, I'm John Shawley, and I'd like to take a couple minutes today to talk about the way God's been moving through our family's lives and the way that everything has been opening, the doors that have been opening, and all the cool things that are happening where we live. So we live in Coalport, Pennsylvania, which is a small rural town, about 400 or 500 people, and it was a very big coal industry back in its day. They had lots of jobs, they had lots of people, they had movie theaters, roller skating rinks. Now they don't have anything. Now they've got lots of abandoned buildings. They got lots of broken families. People didn't have jobs, and now we have a drug problem that's tearing through our town. And there's a lot of hurting families, and we've been seeing a lot of hurting kids because of that. That's one of the main reasons that we wanted to start a church in Coalport. We started out with a backyard club, and we were working with the kids, and we didn't know how it would go. We didn't know if Coalport's very territorial as far as churches. So we didn't know what it would look like if we came into town and wanted to do something for the kids. But it didn't seem to be a problem because we were doing something completely different than any of the churches up there had ever done. We were meeting in the park. We didn't have a building. And we were meeting these kids once a week. We spent 45 minutes doing free play. We have a bin that they do, and we basically let the kids lead what they want to do, and we interact with the kids on what they want to do. So we don't force them to play a certain thing. We don't drive them to, we let them pick. But after that 45 minutes, we have a 15-minute Bible study. It's very kid interactive. There's lots of questions. There's lots of things to keep their attention, lots of things, memory verses, and it's been fantastic to reach these young kids. But the thing that we noticed was we were getting almost as many parents and grandparents and aunts and uncles coming to Backyard Club as we had kids. One night we had 21 adults and 22 kids. So there was two of us at the time, and we're like, how do we interact with both the kids and the adults? And the cool thing was we were sitting there, we were doing the stories, and the parents were sitting there, and the parents were answering the questions, and the parents were asking questions, and the parents wanted prayer requests. It's like, how do we meet the needs of these parents? Because at the time we didn't know what it would be like if we said, yeah, we didn't have any good feelings about sending them to a different church, that they would be accepted the way we accepted them, because of the broken condition of some of these families. They were a little bit messy. They were a little bit rough around the edges, and it just didn't fit some of the models of the way the churches up there wanted their people to look, which broke our heart, which is one of the reasons we're like, we need to do something else for these adults. We need to get something going for these adults. So we started an alpha course, and that went fantastic. We had about 30 adults coming through alpha course up there, and we got to spend time with them on an adult level, and we had free childcare, and we partnered with a local restaurant who, we asked them, what's your slowest day of the week? We'll pack your place. And they accommodated us, and they gave us deals, and we worked together in the community working with that too. So then God's like, what about the teenagers? I'm like, oh, I forgot about the teenagers. I said, and I've never done anything with teenagers. I was like, I'm on the downslope to 40. I don't think teenagers would want to hang out with me. Well, where we're placed, within the first year of living there was a fire next to us, 2 houses down from us, and the place was a total loss. So we're outside, and I'm helping the neighbor get stuff cleaned up, and he's inside and he can't hear me. So these teenagers come down, and they're talking with me, and they just open completely up. They talk about the way they lived in that. They basically lived in that house. They played video games there all the time. And this was a bad house. This was not a good house for teenagers to be in. This was a drug house. This wasn't where they should be, but this is where they could be. So they're over there, and they can do whatever they want. They can eat whatever they want. They can show up whenever they want. They can spend the night if they want. They can have friends over as many as they want. It's just like a little party house for teenagers. But they grew up there since they were little kids. Like, that's what they knew. That was their safe place in town, because everybody else looked down on them. So they could go in there and they could be themselves without the town judging them, basically. But they were over there, and we were talking for about 45 minutes, and they were just laying it out. So they were mad, they were sad, they had all these emotions about losing this place. And like their attitude was almost combative, and their language was foul. And I was like, why don't you guys come over to my porch and hang out, and I'll get you some hot chocolate. And they came over there, and they were sitting, and everything changed. Their attitude changed. They were polite. They said they had manners. They were, yes, please, thank you, all these things. And I'm like, what's the difference here? Like, what's the difference from 2 houses down to my house? What happened? And I'm not sure if it was just the character of somebody wanting to invest into them as opposed to just letting them be there. Like, they really seemed to thrive from that conversation that we had. Like, we talked about doing a teen club for them, and they're like, oh yeah, and I can bring cornhole boards. My dad makes cornhole boards. I'll bring them down, and I can bring snacks and like all these different things. Like, how did this happen? Like, because the previous year, a lot of these teenagers were spitting on our house, throwing pizza crusts at our door. One night, both of our cars got sideswiped by a whole car full of them, and most of them ran off. So I'm like, how did this happen? So in between us starting a teen club, these teens actually started their own boxing club in the park. And I got all kinds of text messages and phone calls, and how can we stop this? Can you go down there and say something to them kids? Can you make them stop this? Can you do something? We're going to go to the school and see if the school will do anything about this. And I'm like, I don't really see anything wrong with this. Like, they have boxing gloves. I used to do this with my friends when I was a kid. They're not hurting anybody. They're all friends. And so this kid saw everybody's comments about his videos, and he tagged me in a post and said, hey, can you guys start a youth group for us? And can you please do some stuff to keep us out of trouble? I was like, yeah, absolutely. I was like, and it blew my mind. Like, I saw the text, and I'm like, I told my wife, Maggie, I said, look, you have to look at this. And she's like, what? Like, our jaws were dropped for a half hour, like trying to figure out what just happened. Like, God just opened this door that we've been praying for years. So we ended up starting a teen club, and we're down there at the park, and one of the kids that was constantly spitting on our house, throwing stuff at our house, ended up coming down there, and he was in a placement home, and he needed to go through AA, and he was going through all this stuff, and he was just hurt, like, and nobody was there for him. And now we're there for him. And he got out of placement, and he came up to our house, walked right up to Maggie, was so excited to say, hey, I got out. Like, I'm done. Like, he just wanted her reaction, because that made him feel good that he could tell her that he's doing better. And another night, we were down there, we were doing free snow cones, and I had to pick up the ice, and I came down a little bit late, and this kid comes walking over, and he said, hey, I don't know if you know me. My name's Ethan, and I'm the kid that hit your cars. I said, yeah, we remember you. And like, how could you forget that? But he's like, yeah, your wife was over there, and she was saying about how she wouldn't let you take the scratch off the car because she wanted to pray for me every time that she saw that scratch. I said, yeah, he said, why would she pray for me? Like, I just hit your cars. Why would, and I said, all your friends left you that night. Everybody left you. You were there by yourself. You didn't look like you were in a good spot. We care about you. We wanted better for you. And he's like, to tell you the truth, that night saved my life. He said, I went to rehab after that. I've been clean for 5 months. And the rest of that night, he was down there serving snow cones to the younger kids. And it was just an amazing thing to see. So now we're looking at finding a way that we can reach all three age groups at the same time. And God has just opened another door with a friend of mine has just bought a building in Coalport, and he said, "Hey, I have a space. You can use it if you need it. You can have it as temporary. You can have it as, or more than temporary." He said, "It's up to you. We can see where it goes, but it's your space for now. Do what you want with it." And I'm like, how did that happen? Like, it was completely unsolicited. Didn't tell him anything about this. And God's like, "Here, I have this opportunity for you." Like, and it seems like all we had to do the whole time throughout this whole process was just say yes. And that's what launched us as Reclamation Church. And Reclamation we use that name because of the coal industry. And the reclamation team always comes in after a coal mining industry has stripped the area of everything that it has and replaces it. They put new trees, they put new grass, they clean up the land. And that's where we're at. We believe that we're going to reclaim our town through Christ. And that's Reclamation Church.